Howdy do, buckaroos. Welcome back to the channel. Coming at you live from 23 Diesel, Buck Wild Motorsports headquarters. So, as I was telling you on the last video, after we put the new fuel pump on, got the new injector return lines on, stuff like that, got the truck fired up, everything was going good. Right now, we are working on NITROUS. So, in between the last video and this video, I know on the last video we talked about a few things we needed to get done before a race, like the tranny dipstick tube and a couple other little small things. So since the last video, I did fix the tranny dipstick leak, which was this bushing. As you can see, it is no longer a one-piece bushing, but now a two-piece. So pulled the dipstick tube out, put new bushing in, no biggie, got that all fixed. Another thing I also did in between the last video and this video is I hooked my drive pressure gauge back up, which I haven't had for a while because the tube broke on the last setup, and I was actually at a race when it happened, so I just put a plug in it and never put it back in because I had done enough testing on the old turbo setup with the old S372 that I knew what my drive pressures were at any given time. So with the new turbo setup and everything, I figured let's get this drive pressure gauge back plumbed up so we can get some data. So I'm going to flip the camera around and kind of show you how I mounted that. It's not the prettiest, but it actually works out pretty well, and it works out for what I'm trying to do. So what I got here is this coil of copper. That's my sensor right there. And the reason you want a coil, which ideally I should probably have more coils of copper, but you want to give the exhaust gases a chance to cool down before they hit that sensor. It just makes the sensor last longer. So got that bolted back up, plugged back in, and it's kind of hard to see, but it's mounted back there next to my EGT probe in my up pipes. And all that does is measure the pressure on the exhaust side of the turbo, not the other side of the turbo would be a boost measurement. Drive pressure is on the force feeding side, the exhaust side of the turbo. And ideally, in a perfect world, you'll have 1-to-1. At full boost, you'll have 1-to-1 drive pressure boost ratio, which would say 30 pounds of boost, you would have 30 pounds drive pressure. That means it's perfectly efficient, everything's working well. That's actually one of the big downfalls of a 6.5, especially with the stock GM 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 turbo, depending on what year vehicle you have, obviously, is the turbine housing, which is the exhaust housing, was just way too small for a 6.5. They worked great if you just left them alone stock, but the second you try and turn them up, the turbine is just way too small and you get excess drive pressure. And that can cause a lot of problems. Higher EGTs, which is exhaust gas temperature, and it's a big culprit of blown head gaskets. You leave a truck alone, runs perfect. There's a lot of guys, including myself, running a bigger aftermarket turbo on stock head bolts, and it lasts because of the reduced drive pressure of the aftermarket turbo as compared to the stock GM turbo. Like I said, if you leave it stock, it'll run like that forever. The second you try and turn up the stock turbo, the drive pressure just starts going through the roof, and that causes some issues. So I don't think I'll have a drive pressure issue with this turbo being as big as it is, but it's still nice to be able to measure and show you guys at what boost pressure and what the drive pressure is at said boost. So got that hooked back up. What I'm actually working on now is going to be NITROUS. It's going to be awesome. So like I said, got the tranny leak fixed, which was a big one. You can't be going drag racing when you have an obvious leak happening, and it's not good on the tranny to be low. And I noticed it would leak about 2 quarts out of that dipstick tube. So Definitely can't be 2 quarts low trying to run down the track, especially launching. It sloshes all your fluid back, starts sucking air. It's just not good. So got that fixed. That was public enemy number 1. Fix that leak. And I figured while I was there, I would hook up that drive pressure gauge, just because I've been wanting to hook it back up, get some data. Here we go. Another thing to show you guys. So now we're working on NITROUS. I never took this truck had NITROUS before, so a lot of the kit was still there. The bottle mount in the back and all the line running up to the engine, all that stuff was still there. What I did, or am going to change, is I have 2 more solenoids, bigger solenoids from NITROUS Express. They are these guys right here. It's kind of hard to read the part number backwards, but these are 15300L solenoids. L standing for a low amperage, so you have less amp draw on your charging system, which is good on a race vehicle when you're not running an alternator or things like that. Although I am running an alternator because I like to do ice cream cruises and stuff like that. But that's the difference between a 15300 and a 15300L, is the low amperage, which you can get into some issues when you're trying to pulse width the solenoid with like a Maximizer 5 NITROUS controller, things like that, but we're not messing with that right now. Eventually I would love to have a Maximizer 5 on this, but not right now. We're doing it old school, Fast and Furious style with a button. So I have 2 more of these said solenoids on top of this old solenoid that I had right here, which is a old NOS small solenoid, which is going to work perfect for now. It's what I had last time. They don't support a super big NITROUS jet, but I really don't need that. What I'm actually going to end up using this small one for is either a small jet for drag racing, or I'm going to use it for a spool jet, like during a dyno, or if we start messing with the turbo, trying to get it to light quicker, things like that. So this, I'm plumbing this one back again because this solenoid, this whole setup was already on it. So I'm putting it back, and then I'm going to be adding, I think, just one of these, because I'm going to put the other one on my Duramax, which that's a whole nother story. That thing shoved off in the field because it decided to break on me. So we'll have a lot of Duramax content coming here soon with that one. But besides the point, we're here to talk about the 6.5. So I'm going to figure out where to mount this guy sometime. So the difference between these solenoids and these older, smaller ones is that one, here, let me flip it around and I'll show you. So this one has the ports on the sides. So this is your in port, and this is the port to your jet, which is right here, to be mounted. This is just a NITROUS Express nozzle, just their basic. This is a -3 inlet, basic 1/8" NITROUS jet, and then an 1/8" weld-on bung, which I have 4 of, which I'll explain in a minute. But the difference is this is a side in and out, so it has a mounting plate that's just mounted to an intake bolt right now, which ideally you want these out of the heat, which is why I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to mount this bad Larry. I mean, look at the size difference on that. I'm going to try and mount the big ones out of the heat, but this one just being a spool jet or a small jet at the track for 8th mile stuff, it worked fine for me in this position last year, and I'm just going to mount it there because all the wiring was already there, the hoses were already ran. It'll work out. But so these are side. This one, the port is on the bottom, and if you look right here, that's the out port that goes to your nozzle, and then this is your in from your bottle, and this is a purge port, so you can purge out your NITROUS system, get it down to the pressure you want, get all the air out of the line so it's pure NITROUS, things of that nature. That's what the purge port is for. It's not just to look cool like they do in all the Fast and the Furious movies where it's coming out the hood. I mean, it does look cool, but The purge is to get, especially on a hot day, your bottle pressure tends to rise, especially if it's mounted outside the vehicle like mine is out in the heat. So you purge it down to the pressure you need, because too high a pressure and the solenoid won't activate. So ideally you want it 950 to 1050 psi, which I have a gauge in the truck. That's what the purge port's for. And then obviously out, but the out port is the same as the mounting, different than that. So that's why I have to build a bracket for these and drill a big hole in it so I can run my fitting through and then mount it. So at this very moment, I'm just gonna get this guy going. And in order to do that, what I'm gonna do is, you see these 4 holes, boom, 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 boom. That's gonna be for these 4 guys. The 4th one, of course, is still on that nozzle over there. But you drill them out, and these are from stainless, or Ace Race Parts is where these are from. They are stainless material, but let it focus. Maybe. There we go. So you see a little step there. This is a 3/4 inch ring, and then the outer diameter of the whole thing is a little bit bigger, but that lets you drill a 3/4 inch hole in your pipe. This sits right down on it like that, and you burn it in. So I'm going to have 4 of these guys at each of the holes. Bam, 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 bam. Of course, I'm not going to have 4 nitrous jets. For now, I'm going to only have 2, and then I want to use one for intake air temp before and after turbo. So I'm going to have one here, and I'm going to have one in the intake manifold to measure how efficient my water to air is working. And then I might get a little rowdy and put a 3rd nitrous jet in the 3rd hole there. But what we're going to work on now is drilling these holes out, getting these guys in there, and getting them welded on. So here we go. I'm going to prop the phone up, and we're going to get to drilling some holes. Alright, so as you guys seen, got the 4 holes all hogged out. My drill bit index, albeit these are amazing. These Matco Hyper Steps. As you can see, I use the heck out of them. But the 29-piece Cobalt Mechanics length reduced shank Hyper Step drill bits are the cream of the crop, boys. I promise. These are bad mama jammas. Again with the focus. Look at that. These are big meanies. But the standard kit only goes up to 1/2 inch. They make them to 1 inch, but you have to buy them in 4 drill bit increments, and they're very expensive. For 4 drill bits, it's about $450, whereas I paid $450 for that whole kit. But that's besides the point. So I broke out the old Milwaukee step drill bit. We got these bad boys hogged out. So as you can see, we got the 2 sitting there in their respective holes. This one right in its respective hole. And of course, like I said, the 4th one's still attached over there. But I'm going to get that one spun off. I'm going to take these over to the fab shop real quick. I'm going to MIG these in, unfortunately, because I broke all my cups on my TIG welder. So I'm just going to MIG these in real quick, and then I have brass plugs for the ones that I'm not currently going to be using. Get those threaded in the 3, pork the nitrous jet in the one we are going to use, and bam, got nitrous. So let me go get those welded up, and I will get back to you guys. Alright, so we had a little technical difficulty with the lighting in the fab shop, so I wasn't able to video the welding, but there's the 4 bungs right there, looking mint. So I'm kind of letting this boy cool down. It's kind of hot over here. It ain't too bad, but over here it's still pretty warm. But then I'm going to slap this back on. I'm actually going to clean it out to make sure there's no metal shavings or anything of that nature inside the pipe. So I'm going to clean all that out, and then we will get this mounted up. And like I said, at this very point in time, we're only using one port, so I'm going to plug the other 3, and when it comes time to adding more nitrous and sensors, things like that, then I will start unplugging ports. But let me wash this thing out, we'll get her mounted up, and then we'll put that other nitrous jet in. Alright guys, so let the pipe cool down a little bit. I kind of cheated and used a little blowgun, blew some air on it, got her cooled down real quick. But we got the pipe on, got the nitrous jet in, everything like that. Sorry there isn't a bunch of like physically working on it footage in this. Just been having technical difficulties with my phone and trying to find a place to prop it to do things like that, and I really need to invest in stuff like that. That's why you guys need to watch more so YouTube can pay me to buy all that stuff. No, I'm just playing. But I did get the pipe on. I got that one nitrous nozzle in, got a jet in it, got it plumbed in. Bottle's empty, so we won't be doing any testing, nothing like that. But it's all on there, it's ready to go. There's a guy up the road that actually fills nitrous, so we will get him to fill the bottle, and then we can do some shenanigans, let me tell you. But I'll flip it around and I will show you guys the finished product, how the bungs turned out, how I ran the nitrous, and we'll go from there. Boom. So I got the pipe back on. Still need to scrape that dang sticker off, but a little pet peeve of mine that I missed when I put it together, but is the clamps being symmetrical facing the same way. This one used to be over here, kind of rubbed on this, so I fixed it. But there's the nitrous bungs right there. Got my solenoid right here. So it's -4 supply and -3 to the nozzle, and that's a -3 nozzle. So in a nitrous system, you always want to go bigger to smaller. You don't want to go big, small, big. You always want to go smaller, because when you go bigger, it creates a pocket and it's less efficient with nitrous. So you got the nozzle in, and I made myself a little witness mark with a paint marker, because that's the way the nozzle sprays, is right here. So I made a little paint mark on it, got her facing downstream here. I did put all my nitrous pre-intercooler. I did that for a couple reasons. One, it seems to hit the engine not as violently. It gives it time to kind of dissipate with all the air going in, hits the engine less violently, smoother transition. I did that, and like I said, it'll cool the charge piping and the intercooler more. On top of this being a water to air with an ice box, it's going to cool it a lot more before it gets there. So that's the way I decided to run everything, is pre-intercooler, post-turbo. There's some guys that do it pre-turbo right in, and to me that seems like it would hurt the turbo, which of course guys ghetto fog it, but that's not the right way to do it. I feel like the air hitting it would slow the compressor down. So we did. I don't know if that's right, don't quote me, I'm not a nitrous expert, as you can tell by my nitrous kit, of course. But post turbo, pre-intercooler, that's how I ran it last year, that's how I'm running it this year. Wham bam, thank you ma'am. So you can see, got that all done, and currently I just have it kind of rigged up to this guy right here, and I actually hold it in my fingers while I'm driving and hit the button, which it worked out for me last year, but the truck might be a lot faster this year, so we'll see how that works. Eventually I'm going to mount the switch to the shifter, but being right there by the steering wheel works good for dynos and stuff, because you're not really going. So let's test it out. Like I said, bottle's empty, bottle's closed. Let's see if we can hear it. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but click. Click. She's ready to go. What do you think of that, boys? Got the nitrous hooked up, plumbed, wired, everything ready to go. Just one small kit right now, which eventually will turn into a spool jet or something of that nature, or a smaller jet to get her going on the dyno and then smack it with the big kit. But right now we just got the small kit on it for testing, verify everything works, things like that. So that's, I think, where I'm going to stop this video. I think it turned out kind of long because there's a lot of talking, but got the NITROUS ready to go. I think the next video will be the water to air. And by I know that's going to be the next video. That and drive shaft loops, things under it. We're going to go through it, nut bolt check, things like that, get it ready to go. But water to air is a big one that we need to get done. So that will probably be the next video for you guys. Some fab work, some plumbing, some cool stuff, getting her ready to go. And maybe we'll do some street testing. So, well, Mexico, of course. But thanks for watching, guys. Like, share, subscribe, comment, hit the bell. Let me know how you think it's going to turn out with this S475 and NITROUS. I think it's going to be a blast. And thanks for watching, guys. Hope to see you on the next one.